I can't abort this child. It's the symbol of our love. Her voice trembled, a mix of desperation and hope lingering in her tone. His jaw tightened and his eyes darkened. I don't care about your so called love. I'm not you enough trouble already? Now this, another burden to deal with. Her heart clenched at his cold words. She met his gaze with tears pooling in her eyes. I didn't beg for this from you. You shouldn't have touched me if you didn't want this charge. Her boldness struck a nerve. Jungkook's expression shifted dangerously, and in a flash, he grabbed her arms. His grip firm and unyielding. Say that one more thing, he hissed, his voice low and threatening, and you will regret even having a tongue. The warning in his voice made her freeze, fear crept into her eyes, silencing her. Before she could respond, his phone burst in his pocket. His expression softened almost immediately. As he glanced at the screen, Wine noticed the abrupt change, confusion and unease bubbling inside her. His tone shifted, unexpectedly sweet. Yes, sweetheart. He sat into the phone, his gaze briefly flicking to Wine. Her chest tightened at the affectionate nickname. Okay, I'm coming. He sat, a smirk tugging at his lips as he ended the call. He stepped closer to her, the smirk growing wider. Do whatever you want with the child, but remember this, I don't want it. His voice dripped with venom as he added, and spare me the drama tonight, I won't be coming home. Without waiting for a reply, he grabbed his coat and left, slamming the door behind him. Wine stood there stunned, her body trembling. The truth hit her heart. He was openly seeing someone else, and he didn't even try to hide it. The pain clawed at her chest as she stumbled into the bathroom. She splashed cold water on her face, hoping to steady her emotions. When she finally stepped out, her phone was on the bedside table. Taehyung, she murmured, picking up the call. Hello. His familiar warm voice came through. Wine, are you at home? Yeah, good. I'm coming over. But you are out of town. I know, I got back last night. Just open the door. Still holding the phone to her ear, Wine walked to the door, her mind spinning from the whirlwind of emotions. When she opened it, a gasp escaped her lips. Standing in front of her was Theo, her best friend. Smiling softly, his presence felt like a lifeline, and for the first time that day, she let herself exhale. Theo sat in the living room, casually leaning back on the couch. Wine placed a tray with juice and snacks on the table before him. She was laughing at his jokes, her laughter loud and seemingly carefree. But her eyes told another story, one of exhaustion and sadness. Noticing her act, Tung gave her a bitter smile. Wine, it's okay to cry sometimes. His gentle words broke the wall she had been holding up. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she crumbled, sobbing uncontrollably. King pulled her into a comforting hug, rubbing her back softly. Wine, are you happy? He asked quietly, his tone filled with concern. She sniffled, pulling back slightly to meet his gaze. No, he doesn't want me or the baby, and he's seeing someone else. She confessed, her voice breaking. His expression tightened. Who is it? Kang Minji. She sat, wiping her tears. I have known about her for a while. He calls her sweetheart. He doesn't even hide it. Taehyung's jaw clenched, his concern for her only growing. Wine, you deserve better than this, he said firmly, holding her shoulders as if to make her believe it. After hearing Wine's story, Taehyung couldn't bear to see her like this. He grabbed her wrist and, despite her protests, took her to a nearby restaurant. You need a change of scenery. Let's get something good to eat. Wine tried to smile but felt uneasy, especially when she stepped inside and froze. Across the room, sitting at a corner table, were Jungkook and Minji. He was laughing with Minji leaning in far too close. Jungkook's sharp eyes catch Wine instantly, and his smile vanished. His gaze shifted to Taehyung, who stood beside her, and his jaw clenched. Without hesitation, Jungkook got up and strode toward them, his face dark with anger. His voice was icy. So you're out worrying around in my absence. Wine's heart dropped at his harsh accusation. No, it's not like that, she stammered. Before she could finish, Thing stepped in, standing protectively in front of her. Worrying around, everyone knows who's doing that. He shot back, his tone sharp as a blade, his eyes flicking briefly to Minji, who had walked up behind Jungkook, smirking. Jungkook's fists tightened at his sides. This is between me and my wife, stay out of it. He growled, your wife? The one you publicly humiliate and neglect. Don't talk about being a husband when you have got your girlfriend clinging to you like a shadow. Jungkook gritted his teeth, glaring at Taehyung with burning rage. Wine, let's go. Taehyung's hand lightly rested on Wine's arm, keeping her in place. She's not going anywhere with you. Wine's eyes widened in shock. Taehyung, she whispered, but he didn't budge. She's my wife. I will decide where she goes. Wife, is that what you call her? Because you sure don't treat her like one. Jungkook's face darkened further, his voice dropping to a dangerous tone. You will regret this when she gets home. She won't come home tonight. He said firmly, his words cutting through the tension like a knife. Wine gasped, her heart racing. Theo, what are you saying? Jungkook's eyes darted between her and Theo, his jealousy clear. Minji, standing smugly beside him, only fueled the fire. Her smile growing wider. You think you can keep her away from me? She's mine. She is her own person, not your property. You don't deserve her and you know it. The restaurant grew quieter as people began to notice the heated argument. Jungkook's fury was evident, but so was his jealousy. The sight of Wine with Taehyung, who defended her so fiercely, made his blood boil. Without another word, he turned on his heel, grabbing Minji's arm and storming out. Wine stood frozen, her mind spinning. Taehyung glanced at her and gave her a reassuring smile. Come on, let's it. Don't let him ruin your night. Taehyung gently pushed the glass of juice toward her, his expression soft and encouraging. Wine, I know things feel heavy right now, but I'm so happy you are pregnant. A baby is a blessing, no matter what anyone says. Wine gave a weak smile, but her eyes brimmed with tears. But his father doesn't want this child. Taehyung's face darkened slightly, his concern deepening. Before he could respond, his eyes catch something. a dark bruise peeking out from her sleeve. As she reached from the glass, he frowned, his voice lowering. Wine, what's this? He gently grabbed her wrist, his fingers brushing over the mark. Did he do this to you? Wine immediately tried to pull her hand away, shaking her head. It's nothing there, I just bumped into something. Her hesitation and the way her voice cracked told a different story. Taehyung's jaw tightened and he leaned closer, his tone firm but filled with concern. Don't lie to me. You can tell me anything, you know that. Before Wine could respond, Jungkook, who had been seated at a nearby table with Minji, clenched his fists. He had overheard every word of their conversation, his blood boiling with a mixture of guilt and anger. He pushed back his chair, ready to confront them, but Minji quickly grabbed his arm. Cook, don't, you will cause a scene. Chuguk's eyes remained locked on Wine, her tear-streaked face and Duke's hand on hers fueling his jealousy. He sat back down reluctantly, but his gaze never left them. Wine wiped her tears quickly, trying to compose herself. I'm fine, Tay, really. No, you're not. His voice softened and he squeezed her hand gently. Wine, you're not alone in this. You deserve better than this pain. Jungkook's grip on the table tightened, his jaw clenching as he fought the urge to intervene. Minji noticed his agitation and smirked, leaning in closer to him. Let's just leave them. But Jungkook didn't move. His focus stayed on Wine, her quiet pain gnawing at him in a way he couldn't explain. At home, as Wine entered the house, Taehyung's words echoed in her mind. You deserve respect. Wine, don't let anyone walk all over you. Stand up for yourself, no matter who it is. She clenched her fist, determination filling her heart. Jungkook was already waiting in the living room, his expression cold. Minji sat beside him, her smugness evident. You are late. I was out. His eyes narrowed. Go make dinner. We are hungry. Wine didn't argue and headed to the kitchen. She poured her heart into preparing the meal, trying to brush off the tension. Once the food was served, she quietly stood back, watching as they ate. Minji took a bite and immediately spat it out. Her face twisted in disgust. What is this? It's disgusting. Wine froze, her confidence wavering. I made it the way I always do. Then you must always cook garbage, she sneered. Rising from her chair, Minji stormed up to Wine and slapped her across the face. Wine staggered back, her eyes wide in shock. For a moment, she stood frozen, but then Theung's voice rang in her head again. Stand up for yourself. Without thinking, she raised her head and slapped Minji back hard. You have no right to treat me like this. Minji gasped, clutching her cheek as tears welled in her eyes. She turned to Chongko, running to him dramatically. She slapped me, Cook. Wine's heart sank as she saw the lie unfold before her. That's not true. She slapped me first. Chungkook's face darkened, his red boiling over. Without a word, he stepped forward and slapped Wine hard across her cheek. Wine stood frozen after Chungkook slapped her cheek, burning with pain. But it wasn't just the physical sting, it was the betrayal, the humiliation. Her hand trembled, and without thinking, she slapped him back, the sound echoing through the room. Jungkook's head turned with the force of her hit, his eyes wide with shock. The silence in the room was deafening. Even Minji stood there stunned, her smirk wiped clean off her face. How dare you? How dare you raise your hand at me for her? Jungkook glared, trying to regain his composure, his voice sharp and biting. You are crossing the line, Wine. Wine stepped closer, her eyes blazing with fury. No, you crossed the line the moment you let her disrespect me in my own house. Do you even see what you have become, Jungkook? Jungkook grabbed her wrist as she tried to turn away, his grip firm but not hurtful. You're not leaving, not like this. She yanked her hand free, glaring at him. Watch me, you have already made it clear who marries you, and it's not me. I have had enough of you. Where are you going? To that boy? Why let out a bitter laugh, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, so now you care about where I go. What about you, Jungkook? You're flaunting your girlfriend in front of me in my own home, but I can't even have a friend. He stepped forward, trying to close the gap between them, his frustration boiling over. You are my wife, don't forget that. A wife, is that what I am to you? Because it sure as hell doesn't feel like it. You have treated me like nothing but a burden since the day we got married. Minji stepped in, trying to place a hand on Jungkook's arm. Cook, don't waste your time. Let her leave if she wants. Wine's anger flared even more as she turned to Minji. And you, don't think for a second you have won. You are nothing but a home wrecker who feeds on someone else's misery. Minji gasped, her face turning red with embarrassment. Jungkook, however, tightened his jaw, his voice lowered dangerously. In a fine, you don't know when to stop, do you? Wine stepped back, grabbing her bag with trembling hands. You have already stopped me, Jungkook. Stopped me from being happy, from feeling loved, from even feeling human. I'm done. Jungkook's voice softened slightly as he saw the tears brimming in her eyes. Wine, don't. I gave you everything, Jungkook. I tried so hard to make this work, but you only pushed me away. I'm leaving, and this time I won't come back. Jungkook stepped forward, his hand reaching for hers, but she jerked away. Don't touch me. Go to your girlfriend, Jungkook. That's who you care about, right? Live your perfect little life with her. You are going to regret this, Wine. Running to that boy won't fix anything. She turned to face him one last time, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. Regret? I regret ever thinking you could love me. With that, she stormed out of the kitchen and ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. Jungkook stood frozen, his chest heaving with anger and something else he couldn't name. Minji placed a hand on his shoulder, but he shrugged it off, his eyes glued to the door White had just walked out of. White dragged her suitcase into the living room, her hands trembling as she gripped the handle. Her heart was heavy, but her resolve was firm. She couldn't stay here any longer, not when every second felt like torture. She was about to reach for the door when Chokuk's voice stopped her in her tracks. So you're really leaving, huh? She turned around slowly, her eyes meeting his. He was leaning against the doorway, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable but his tone sharp. Minji had left earlier, and now it was just the two of them. Yes, I am. His jaw tightened and he took a step forward. Running away, as usual, that's what you are good at, isn't it? Her lips quivered for a moment, but she quickly steadied herself. I'm not running away. I'm leaving because I deserve better than this. Better than you. His eyes darkened and his voice dropped to a low growl. Better than me? You think you will find someone who will put up with you? Don't fool yourself. She clenched her fists, holding her ground. I don't need someone to put up with me. Jungkook, I need someone who respects me, who values me, and you don't even know the meaning of those words. He scoffed, running a hand through his hair, his frustration boiling over. You think you are some saint, don't you? Always playing the victim. Do you even realize how much I have tolerated from you? Tolerated? What exactly have you tolerated, Jungkook? My silence, my efforts to make this marriage work while you paraded your girlfriend in front of me. Tell me, what have you sacrificed? He stepped closer, his voice rising. You don't know anything about me or what I have been through. Don't act like you are the only one suffering here. She laughed bitterly, tears threatening to spill, but her voice unwavering. Suffering, you don't even care about me, Jungkook. You never did. All you care about is yourself. And now you want me to stay here and keep pretending everything is fine? He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but not hurtful, his voice shaking with suppressed anger. You're my wife, fine. You don't get to just walk away. She yanked her arm free, glaring at him with defiance. A wife, is that what I am to you? Because all I have ever felt like a convenience. You don't own me, Jungkook. You lost the right to call me your wife. This moment you chose her over me. His face hardened and he took another step closer, his voice dripping with menace. If you walk out that door, don't expect me to come running after you. She stared at him for a moment, her heart aching but her resolve unshaken. But I wouldn't want you to. She turned toward the door, her suitcase rolling behind her. But before she could step outside, his voice stopped her one last time. Wine, she paused but didn't turn around. Goodbye, Jungkook.